The war in the Middle East is raising the terror threat here at home as well. Hamas and other terrorist groups would not think twice about hurting you. So how concerned should Americans be? Joining us is Mike Turner, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee from the great state of Ohio. Chairman, thank you so much for being with us. Let's start with what's about now a one-month-old war. It seems like some have already lost the appetite for taking on Hamas, and they're calling for ceasefires and pauses. What do you think?
Well, Trey, thanks for having me on. And certainly, it's disconcerting to watch how quickly people lose sight of the terrible, atrocities that Hamas committed when they killed over 1,000 innocent Israelis. And certainly, Israel has to be in a position to be able to defend itself and to take this conflict to Hamas to protect itself in the future. But you're right, that conflict has resulted in an increased risk to the United States itself. It's been just over a week that Director Wray, director of the FBI, came before the Senate and said that we have a greatest threat to the United States attacks in the homeland than since over a decade. And then last week he appeared before had a conversation with the members of the majority side of the Intelligence Committee in the House, and he related to us the same and says that he's very concerned about the risks to the United States.
Chairman, we are seeing violent and ugly protests, threats against Jews in this country. How worried should we be about this war being exported to our homeland or groups sympathetic to Hamas acting out here in the U.S.?
Well, absolutely, and that is one of the elements that the Director Wray has identified as increasing the threat to the United States. And he talked about, of course, the increased threat to U.S. troops abroad, but his point and really the alarm he's sounding is the threat of attacks inside the United States. He cited what occurred in Afghanistan with the abrupt withdrawal, eliminating our ability to have intelligence gathering within Afghanistan from terrorist groups and organizations that could be planning attacks in the United States. And he cited the southern border, indicating that there are people in the United States who've crossed the southern border who pose a risk to our country, people who are allied with international terrorist groups and organizations who both as groups could be planning terrorist attacks, some lone wolves who might be inspired, as you were saying, by what Hamas has been doing. And then also the fact that Hamas, Hezbollah, and others, ISIS, have been calling for attacks in the United States. And that also can result in this increased threat and perhaps, grave danger to the United States.
Chairman, there are surveillance programs that, if used properly, can help keep us safe, but there is also skepticism. It began to arise when you and I served together that these programs are not always used properly. So what is the status of these surveillance programs and any reauthorizations that may be coming up?
Sure, Trey, I appreciate you raising that. So the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act has provisions that expire every now and then so that Congress can have oversight of those provisions. One of them, which is 702, and it requires that we collect information only on foreign threats that are outside the United States. And the Intelligence Committee has lived up to that. 702 has not been gathering information on individuals that are not foreign and not outside the United States. But it also gives us a tool for those like the ones we just talked about who are inside the United States, who are allied with international terrorist groups and organizations. When they communicate with those foreign terrorist threats outside the United States, those communications can be captured and can be used to try to stop attacks in the United States. That counterterrorism aspect is what has really kept us safe since 9/11. Our ability to monitor these international terrorist groups and organizations and see what they're trying to do within the United States. Not monitoring U.S. persons, not monitoring people who are here, but people outside the United States and what harm they may be planning to do to us or causing people to try to plan. The aspect that's this is expiring, so we need to reauthorize it. It is a program that is essential to our being able to keep our country safe. And, there really isn't any constitutional protection for people who are located out the United States, who are terrorist groups and organizations. And you don't have the right to constitutional privacy to correspond with terrorist groups and organizations outside the United States. And that's really, courts have held that over and over again, and that's where we want to hold the line. Congress is making sure that Americans' rights are not violated at the same time we use these tools to protect our country.
Chairman Mike Turner from the great state of Ohio, a very busy man with a very important job. Thank you for joining us on a Sunday night.
Trey, thank you so much.